You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cricket Podcast, where we will be talking about England in the West Indies. We'll be doing a little bit of Pakistan, playing Australia, a little bit of India, the Sri Lanka, and we'll be wrapping up with the Women's World Cup out in New Zealand, where England have not been doing well. I am Jack Hope. I'm joined by Ross Legg. How are you doing, Ross, in the top left corner on YouTube?
Yeah, marvellous. Thanks, mate. I'm honoured to be sharing a podcast platform with the new shining star of freelance cricket writing.
Yeah, said freelance star, Cameron Ponsonby.
It's perfect,
welcome.
yeah.
I'm never going to get it right. Welcome
That's
back
fine.
to the Cricket Podcast from Antigua. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks, guys. Thank you for having me back. And having a great time. So
we're never going to let you leave. Now you've joined us more than once and demonstrated that you're more than competent. It's always that bit of a seat.
That's perfect. That's my goal in life, just to be just above competent and just never leave anywhere, basically. So
if you could change your name to Dan for the purposes of the podcast, so that would be useful as well. Because
we could do that.
4 Dans, yeah.
Oh yeah, nice. I thought you meant Cameron Dan as like.
Oh well, I mean that I guess would work too. Ross,
yes, mate.
What are the messages to the listeners? Get us back on track.
We are sponsored by Serious Cricket for all of your equipment purposes and needs. Go to their website, use code TCP22 and get 10% off. We've been using their stuff for ages. They provide our team stuff and they're brilliant, but it is on equipment only, 10% off, TCP22 on their website, seriouscricket.co.uk. Go to Patreon if you want to support the show. We've had a couple more in the last couple of days, Jack, haven't we? Which is absolutely fantastic.
Arctic today.
Yeah, so welcome to the club. We'll get you into the Discord channel where you just see Max not really there too often, but you get me and Jack kind of having a bit of a meltdown where we're sitting watching cricket, just to be like, why are we sitting here watching Australia hit 700 against Pakistan or whatever it was? And you also get hat, you get IPL data, you get all kinds of different stuff. So sign up, enjoy, and then also follow us at the Cricket Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Very good. Cameron, I'm going to throw it over to you first of all. We did daily shows for this match, apart from day 5, because we knew it was going to be a draw. So we've said a lot of what we want to say about about the cricket. Could you give us an idea of what it was like on the ground, though? Was it? I mean, it's England's first tour away with fans for a long time. Was the atmosphere good? Did you enjoy it, even though the cricket was maybe a bit flat at times?
Yeah, I think by the end of it, it was broadly quite a positive feeling. I think it looked like it was all going wrong. Like day 1 and 2, it was like, oh no, like we're 50 for 4 again. Our new ball seamers away from home aren't taking any poles again. Like this is the reset. This is the new beginning, and it feels a lot like what was happening before. But by the end, they kind of tried to force again. They weren't that far away from winning it. Like you get Bonner or you get Holder, and you kind of sneak through to silver, and then all of a sudden you've got Alzarri Joseph for 8. So on that last day, there was a kind of, for a long time, there was like, hang on, like we've gone from this feeling of negativity on the first 2 days to being like, are they actually going to win? It was a draw, and they went right to the end, which I think was part of this new mentality of kind of fight, never giving up, and I'm trying really hard not to be cynical about it, because I think if they were just a friend of ours who were trying to start something new and doing it in private, you'd be like, good on you, well done. But they're doing it in public as elite athletes, so it's just a bit weird. And so you're like, oh, what, you're trying something new, but like it looks exactly the same, you're just trying harder. What does that mean? But in general, it was positive. I think the major downsides was Mark Woods becoming injured. It was very strange that Ben Stokes bowled about 40 overs. Joe Root really has to retire the line he says of, it's really hard to stop Stokes from bowling. You're the most experienced Test captain that England's ever had. What are you like? You've got to be able to stop him bowling. But yeah, because he wasn't meant to be bowling the match. But hey, I think all in all, it was a positive start.
What did you think about Carlos Brathwaite's comments? He said there around England going all the way to the end, and then Carlos Brathwaite came out and said it was disrespectful to West Indies cricket.
Yeah, it's nonsense. Like, I think that's someone who's spoken before he's had a really chance to know what he's saying. England got shit for stopping too early against Pakistan, I think a couple of years ago. I think they did it against Australia in the Ashes. That was his line. He said if it was the Ashes, they wouldn't have gone this far. And then someone pulled up a scorecard where it was the Ashes and they did exactly the same thing. I don't really know what you're there to win. So yeah, why would you stop? Like,
maybe he's just a big proponent of 4-day test matches.
I think Carlos Brathwaite wanted a day off. That's what I think. He was there. He was like, I'm getting paid whether I'm here or sitting at home on my sofa, and I'm stuck here in the studio with Mark Ramprakash. Yeah. And I'm not having a good time. I think that's where he was coming from, which I appreciate. I could see. I think great point. If I was Carlos Brathwaite, I would be angry that happened to me too. but yeah, the point of the English cricket first team is to try and win test matches when you play them. But yeah, go on, Ross.
And there was like some sliding door moments, right? So Cameron, you said if we would have just got past Holder or Bonner, actually, where there was a chance. And there was an opportunity where Jack Leach did have him LBW, and England, for no reason whatsoever, just didn't review it. They had reviews in the bank, and they decided against it.
Yeah, this one was weird. So I might not be helpful here in that I'm convinced there's something off with Hawkeye there. I feel like because it clips both pads, and he leaves it and it looks weird, and it clips his front pad and it hits his back pad. And this is me just being full on conspiracy theorist here, as opposed to saying you're
fitting in with the theme of the show. Honestly, we had to fill so much time for the podcast and the daily ones that conspiracy theories have come up. So please continue.
Yeah, go on.
So it looks like it's sliding down and it clips his front pad and then it hits his back pad. And that's where it looks like it takes the impact from on Hawkeye. And all of a sudden it's crashing into leg stump. And I remember just thinking, like, that doesn't feel right. And it's not the first time that's kind of happened in a game with England, because famously Ben Stokes is dead set that the head England test where he was deemed out, he would have been out on review of LBW. He's like, there's no way that's what's happened. Like, it's clipped my front pad and they've taken the reading from my back pad. Mm-hmm. Now I'm speaking as an individual's anecdote, having seen it on a screen maybe twice. They've got a computer full of numbers and data points, but I think I'm right, basically.
Well, I did see on Twitter. I did see on Twitter a couple of people asking the question of where do you take the reading from, and it's obviously the first impact.
Yeah,
like obviously, like there's no bit where you just kind of go, oh no, now it's there. Like it's not taking a massive deflection, and now it's going to go and happen.
But it correlates with what I think they must have thought, because the reason they've not reviewed it is because they thought it was missing the stumps. And so, it would look. Nevertheless, it still means it was the wrong decision not to review it, because he would have been out. And it just looked bad. He's not played a shot. And the rule is, if you leave the ball, you are out LBW, even if the ball's missing the stumps. That's the kind of the rule of cricket, I believe. So
that's where the players shouldn't try and know better, right? I think I was in a situation once where we had a short leg playing, and this guy's rocked back from the spinner, and this guy smashed it, hits the guy square on the helmet, loops up, and the bowler doesn't even bother to catch it, because he's just like, was hit a piece of equipment, it's going to be a dead ball. And then the umpire was like, why didn't you catch that? We didn't get the wicket, didn't win the game, and it was all down to that moment. So maybe shouldn't be too clever for your own boots, old Jack Leach and Joe Root.
Ross, you had some things that you thought we learned. I'm struggling to understand what we've learned. Like, don't play cricket on really flat wickets is what I think we've learned. But you have got some analysis about what actually happened in the game from an England perspective. Do you want to share them with our listeners?
A bit of West Indies as well. I think. Okay. I think I've got a question first and foremost around Woakes and Overton. Do we think they were not up to the task, or was it because the pitch was so lifeless and actually they toiled in the first bit because of the pressure of the Broad and Anderson shadow, or did they just have a bad game and they've got 3 games in here that they could possibly play and probably play 2 out of the 3 and they'll probably do okay? Where do you sit on they should never play Test cricket again versus they are the second coming of Broad and Anderson?
Who, me?
Both of you. Both of you.
Well,
let's crowd source.
You go first, Cameron.
I think one of the things I've not realised, it wasn't an epiphany, but when England are saying we want to learn things, it doesn't have to be good things you're learning. It can be bad things. And so I think with Wokes in particular,
it is better. Yeah, no, I know this, but if you're the main team for the nation, ideally you don't want to be learning loads of bad things.
Absolutely. And ahead of the series, asked Root at a press conference. I was like, well, elite sport is meant to be in elite sport, winning is everything. We've chosen to leave two of our best bowlers at home. So is that still true for this series? And he said yes. And I was like, well, that doesn't really make sense. But I know you can't say no, winning's not everything. But with Wokes, if he plays these, he'll get the series, you imagine. And then after that, he'll have played 20 tests away from home. He'll have played in the Caribbean. He'll have played in Australia. He'll have played in New Zealand. He'll played in South Africa. Like, you're done. Like, we've tried it. It's not worked. Okay, thanks. See you at Lords and never see you in Colombo or whatever. Overton, yeah, look, they bowled shit, man. Like, that first spell was bad. Like, it wasn't good. There was a stat about like Wokes was bowling a ball and over down that was missing leg stump, and they were trying to be straighter, but it's not straight, is it? You're missing leg stump. I think the kind of worst case scenario for England in terms of a learning, inverted commas, away is if Wokes and Overton go through the series and are absolutely okay, because then it's not been good enough or bad enough for any points have been proven. I think Wokes will have to do very well to kind of be given another chance beyond this. And I think of Craig Overton as England's Robert Earnshaw. I'd like brilliant county bowler. Are you ever going to make the step up? Probably, maybe. I don't know. You'll probably be fine, but you're probably always going to be like the 6th or 7th best team in the country. But I think the major positive was Jack Leach. He bowled really well. There was a big question mark going into the game about whether he can hold his role as a holding spinner and in a 4-man attack. And he went at less than 2 and over. And then he bowled really well on the last day. And there were a couple of LBW umpires' calls decisions that didn't go his way. It's very easy that we have a narrative here where Leach has taken 8 and spun England's victory. So I think that's a positive.
I think there's a point on the Leach front is that let's see how he does in this series, right? Because West Indies' approach, and Jason Holder said as much in the interview, was around we want to grind these guys into the ground and keep them out there, kind of thing. Okay. And actually, there is a bit around going at 2 and over is great, but I thought he did really well. And when I was talking to Dan Weston, we were going, actually, you could well come out of this game with 6 or 7 wickets. And actually, if his luck went either which way, probably would have done so. But I think, again, that extended period, Jack Leach is looking really positive, especially in that new leadership team role of being that senior spinner compared to what Wokes and Overton did.
My problem with all of them is that I think
none of them are good enough. Get rid of
the
them.
entire bowling attack is sort of one-dimensional in one way or another. Like, very few of the players have got sort of 2 skills. It was actually, I mean, Jack Leach you can maybe exclude from that because we saw that he is able actually to hold down an end. Now, I think that's probably because he was playing against worse players who weren't really trying to do anything, and not because he suddenly got better from 2 months ago when he was unable to do that. But him aside, and I put my caveat out there for Leach as to why I'm not like blown away by what he achieved here. Him aside, I don't think any of them can really take wickets in a second way. They all need seam and swing basically to be a threat. We had a question from Mask on Twitter who asked, do you think it's the end of Chris Wokes, the overseas bowler? He was even wayward with the Duke's ball. I know he had value with the bat, but surely England has better options overseas. I think the point to dwell on that Mask has raised there is that he was wayward overseas, and that stat you mentioned, Cameron, about him bowling a ball and over down the leg side is basically Chris Wokes' problem all over. He is incapable of bowling spells of 24 to 30 balls without bowling 4 hittable deliveries, and that means your skill set's never really going to translate to anywhere that doesn't give you loads of help with the ball deviating every which way to put the batter on the back foot in the first place. As soon as the batter thinks they can impose themselves on the game, then you're going to serve something up for them to hit. And that's sort of the story with Wokes overseas. So occasionally he does bowl a magic ball, occasionally will take a wicket, but he also serves up a lot of pie.
In
And
my
this is
head,
where Anderson and Broad developed as cricketers, and where Wokes hasn't. Young Anderson, young Broad would go away from home and sometimes not be that special. But old Anderson, old Broad don't bowl hitter ball deliveries. They're able at the very minimum to put pressure on the batter by not giving them anything to score off. Wokes cannot do that, and therefore, we see the results. We see completely innocuous spells where there's no pressure on the batsman whatsoever, and they're just sort of standing there waiting for the next half tracker.
All right, so
that's what happened, isn't it?
There's some Wokes and Overton. The danger is they just be okay. So that's a.
I don't even think it's that. I think we saw really clearly Wokes against not a very good batting lineup, actually with at times a little bit of assistance to the ball, unable to do something, and you saw he was really exposed for what he cannot do, which is do a second thing.
Yeah, but it's 25 down the order, mate, and that's what England pick a bowler for. That's been the selection policy for ages.
I think we have learned that. Again, we knew that, but we can put that down as learning. Because it's the reset, we can throw out all the stuff we had learned, and we can put it in the positives column. We can start learning again, can't we?
Oh, Wokes can't really play the short ball that well. Okay, let's figure that one out. Anyway, so we've got Leach did well. Cameron, I agree with your bit, and I would love to see him do really well in this. I like Jack Leach. I think he's a good spin bowler. I do hope that Parkinson gets a role at some point, but I think after that performance he will struggle to get into the side. Dan Lawrence's dressage finally made it onto the world stage in a big way. I thoroughly enjoyed watching him coming into bowl. Jack, you called him the frog. Or frog face, which I found highly interesting.
A frog head, I think. But that's from the frog in the blender comment. I don't. He's not quite frog in a blender, is he? He's like frog in an automatic whisk. Like there's a lot going on there, but you don't think he's going to get mangled completely, a la Paul Adams. Like the head is sort of looking at where the ball's going to go when he does bowl the ball.
What was your view, Cameron, on Dan Lawrence? I thought he had a pretty good test match overall.
Yeah, he did. I only saw, I think, Dan Lawrence bowl on telly before this series, but it was only the first time in the warm-up game where I was in person, saw him bowling live, and I was like, what on earth is this? Like, it's crazy to watch, and it looks not terrible, or maybe it does look terrible, but I just can't get my head around the fact that what's coming out is kind of like an elite. It's probably the best off spinner that I'll have ever. If he was bowling it in the nets with a conventional action down at your local cricket club, you'd be like, this guy's the best bowler in the world. But he's doing it with this kind of strange kind of looping ballerina action. But yeah, he's had a great test match. I can't remember what he got in the first.
He's got about 30 each innings, really, but the second half he came out hitting, which was good.
I think he's had a very positive test match. He's had a test match where I think he'll have taken a lot of confidence from it, but that buzzword, I don't know if we've learned too much about him in that he hasn't scored. He's scored his runs in a kind of one-day manner. He's come out and you've got to be good enough to do it. But like the idea that we've learned more and he's proved himself more as a red ball batter, that's still, I mean, he hasn't disproven anything, but it's not like that's still the jury's out, etc.
Better than Ollie Pope. That's what I'm taking away from it.
Yeah, we're done. One test match, happy.
Yeah. Ollie Pope is no more. He can just field when our seam bowlers get injured and he goes short leg.
It's a good run out.
Yeah.
From Ollie Pope. It wasn't completely anonymous. Yeah.
Yeah, wasn't quite Fawad Alam for Pakistan.
Maybe we could turn him into Gary Pratt.
I'm sure that's what Ollie Pope wanted from this tour, actually, to be relegated to the substitute fielder who has a nice career in the minor counties. So.
And then the only other bit was around what we learned from a West Indies point of view, because I think batting-wise, Bairstow hitting a century, Crawley hitting a century, really positive signs for England. I think once you got past... I think the bowling lineup for West Indies is pretty good. I think some of the hyperbole I was seeing on Twitter and a little bit wider was probably a bit much. I'm not sure that anyway the past kind of Holder and Roach poses a consistent enough threat. I think they can be good in spells, but I think the consistency of that is different to what you're playing against and some of the other pace lineups, but it's still challenging enough. Purmell is shit. Like watching him bowl, absolutely dreadful. How he even got selected was unbelievable to me. But hopefully he doesn't take 10 for in the next game. What I wanted to focus on was Campbell. I like Campbell. Like, his approach is hilarious. Like, could bat out for 70 balls and then he's just going to charge down the wicket for no reason.
He's one of my favourite cricketers, I think, of all time. He's insane.
We talk about John Campbell here.
Yeah.
John
there's
Campbell.
not another Campbell that I didn't notice.
It's not DJ Campbell, formerly the Blackpool striker.
I wouldn't be that surprised if it turned out. If John Campbell turned around and said, I had a decent career in the Football League, I'd be like, of course you did. You can do anything. John Campbell's amazing. He's absolutely bonkers. He's got dropped a year ago. This was his first test match after being dropped. And just the arrogance of the bloke, he's playing these big booming drives down the wrong line of the ball. So everyone's square of the wickets going, oh, the Barmy Army, Wokes has almost nicked him off. And if you're behind the bowler's arm, Wokes has bowled it on like fifth stump and Campbell's really violently driving down like towards mid-on. And you're just like, why are you doing that? I've never seen anyone else do that in my life. And then like Jack Leach comes on and he just charges him first ball and then he reverse sweeps him. Then he tries to stick him over cover. Then he gets his maroon baggie out and he pops his collar with all his buttons done up. I'm like, this is amazing.
That's what you want from a cricketer though, especially a West Indies cricketer. I'll be back in 2 seconds.
But
he's a man who's only hit 250s ever.
Yeah. Makes it even better.
I don't know. I don't get the love in.
I asked, I didn't get an answer, but I asked a very badgery question to CricViz about, has there ever been a player who has a lower average, but has a higher percentage of innings that are in double figures? Because he always gets 20 or always gets 15. He always gets
James
something.
Vince?
Very possibly.
It is a little bit like England's James Vince. There is a...
Yeah, I mean, John Campbell is not aesthetically beautiful. He's just kind of...
Neither's James Vince. We just think he is.
Yeah. Well, there we go.
More conspiracy theories.
Beauty is a social construct.
Subjective. Yeah. That's true.
But
no, John Campbell, he will... I think there's a feeling that... Because he got dropped a year ago and then he dominated in the domestic circuit. He's come back. It is a kind of like... Does it show up? I don't know if this is a cruel statement or not. Does it show up the kind of quality of domestic cricket if this is like genuinely the best that's coming out and he's been dropped and come back and proved it again? I think that's probably unfair, but he's a cowboy and he's my favourite cowboy. So I'm hoping he does very well because it's just entertaining for everyone involved.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, Ross, anything else on this cricket match? Because we can talk a little bit about Barbados next week.
I just the final bit I've got is the dislike of the Barmy Army. So, and this is an interesting one.
Is this your dislike, or is this?
No, I'm actually quite ambivalent. It was probably
Cameron's dislike of the Barmy Army.
Oh, I haven't said anything.
No, it was just quite interesting. There was a lot of people getting really annoyed that England were doing the trumpet all the time, playing music all the time, and kind of like just being genuinely quite loud. And I was wondering, on the ground, Cameron, was there the classic kind of English stereotype where they are ruining the holiday for everyone, or is it just the Barmy Army being the Barmy Army and supporting their team abroad? And I want to think it's the latter rather than the former. I
think it was the latter. Look, like they don't leave much to the imagination. Like what you're seeing is exactly what it is on the ground. It's guys drinking lager with their top off.
Yeah, got a West Ham tattoo or a Burnley tattoo.
Yeah,
great.
And don't get me wrong. Like it is a very like alien picture when you see a quite chubby sunburnt man with a Nottingham Forest badge tattooed on his chest, just kind of roaming around this kind of like idyllic scene. You're like, this isn't quite matching up for me.
He's got Trent Rockets on his arse, by the way. That's
absolutely. He's got all of them. He's got Notts Forest, Nottinghamshire, Trent Rockets. He covers bases. He's got Notts County on his back.
Stuart Broad back piece.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I think I try and work out my own feelings towards it. In that I try not to be kind of cynical about it because it is just it is ultimately harmless fun. Yeah. But I think I can understand if you are there all the time and the Barmy Army isn't your wants and you just wanted to follow the England cricket team, to hear Jerusalem belted out every morning and have the trumpet going all day. And
I think the Jerusalem in the morning is fine. But why don't we say Jerusalem, you do Jerusalem, then you give it a rest until lunch. And then
you get given your trumpet for an hour.
Yeah, and you have an hour of trumpet in the afternoon. And then when everyone's boozed up at the end of the day, last hour and a half is all yours. Get the trumpet going, and then even the casual fans might get involved.
Yeah, even like steal some steel drums. You're on those as well. You can do whatever you like. But
I think we just need rules.
I don't have a problem at all, and I just thought it was quite funny to see these people moaning about it, especially when some of the passages of play were dreary, and it was just like, thank God something at least is going on.
Yeah. What's the alternative? So basically, what I've learned is Jack hates the Barmy Army. So
I don't hate the Barmy Army. I just think
it sounded like it.
You need to have your barmy periods of the day, don't you?
Yeah. Okay.
Let's have some non-Barmy Army. Just not the army. You know what I mean? Barbados next week, Cameron. What can we expect?
Yes. Looks like Mahmood's going to come in. It looks like he's going to make his debut. That is the kind of word from the guy, journalist. So Nick Holt was reporting that for the Telegraph after watching training today. Woods, like I don't think it's been confirmed, but I think he is almost 100% out.
There's rumours he might be out of the IPL. So, which is as far as that's been.
It would be. I've not heard if that's confirmed or not, if that's likely. I think it just sounds bad. Like if you're a fast bowler and your elbow's not good, that's what they want to find out. They want to find out if it's just a kind of muscle injury or like a swelling that can, with some rest and recovery, can just come back to normal, or if it's a problem like Archer has, which is more kind of structural, then we're in trouble.
Yeah.
So he's Wood's going to be out, and so Mahmood will be replacing him as the kind of the faster, the quicker bowler. And then it sounds like Robinson's going to come back in probably for Overton, just so England kind of keeping some of their powder dry as right arm military medium, as you may think it is. So no, someone else doesn't break down, then they're left short for Grenada. But aside from that, it'll be that's the only change that I've heard. In terms of the West Indies, it sounds like they're going to drop Pamal, the spinner.
Who could have seen that coming?
Yeah, I think he got 5 for his last Test match, and I wasn't seeing it. That second innings was pretty brutal on him.
Yeah, it was.
With Root kind of just taking the
Root looks sublime. We didn't talk about that because we just expect Root to hit tons now, which is just ludicrous. But he looked he was literally playing the ball pretty much off the stumps and like just guiding it through. It was amazing.
It was an incredible. I think that was a point made by a few people that so often a Root century is the story of the day and the only story that can be told. And then here it was like a really quiet, just we're all going to forget it happened, and that's perfect. Like that's what you want.
Like a good goalkeeping performance. You don't want to talk about the goalkeeper. You just want to be like, you got a safe pair of hands at the helm. He's hit another 150. Get on with it.
It worked, and I think part of that was like he only scored 6 boundaries in this century, which means he was just in control. But yeah, so Pamal will be out for the West Indies by the sounds, and they're going to bring in Kyle Mayers to basically lengthen the batting lineup, and also he bowls some of those.
Dobbers.
Yeah, bowl some of those.
Nice.
So yeah, that's the word ahead of Barbados.
Brilliant.
Okay. Who's going to win, Ross?
Another draw.
Another draw. Not in Barbados. That's a proper issue.
I'm going to go on the Barmy Army side. I've backed him in
Barmy Army.
I'm going to back him again. So it's going to be England.
Cameron, well, seen them live. Which team did you think was better? Which are moral victors from the first Test?
England finished it on top. I think by virtue of having a slightly less brittle batting lineup, I think you've got to back England. But there's just worlds where there's a world where this Test match goes all 5 days and we have a similar draw to last week. And there's also a world where we're done by day 3 because both sides have got skittled. I know that's exciting.
Yeah, well, to be fair, but Bonner's been fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Like trusted his own technique, knows what he is, knows what he isn't. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And I think West Indies are going to put up a really good fight. I think the next 2 Test matches should be really good. And I think this actually teed it up to be competitive. And I kind of want them to at least win 1. Like going away with a 1-1, that'd be nice.
Well, it's all relevant, isn't it? So
what, life, the podcast, cricket?
No, these 2 teams going out. This is like if you could get relegated, then it would be interesting, but you can't. This is.
Imagine England getting relegated. Aman, you're in.
They definitely have a bash at it. Right, we're going to wrap up part 1 there. So thank you for listening so far. Remember to like and subscribe to the Cricket Pod. And we are sponsored by Serious Cricket. TCP22 for 10% off their gear, which will be your gear once you buy it.
That's how money works.
That's how shops work. Bye.